the game, but it was a substitute that made the difference. Anis Ben Slimane's low rifled effort into the bottom corner gave Norwich a platform which they built on through Ali Ahmed, who tucked in at the far post later on in the second half. And it's another defeat in a season which is proving to be a struggle for Leicester City. Many important games to go, but it is a blow for Gary Rowett, who tastes defeat in the dugout for Leicester City for the first time. Final score here at King Power Stadium, it finishes Leicester City 0, Norwich City 2.
Niall, we'll stick with Matt Elliott, who is on co-commentary duty with you, Matt, to give your assessment of that. Obviously a bitterly disappointing and frustrating afternoon.
Very much so, Dan. I mean, a lot of talk before the game and the build-up after Middlesbrough. Encouraging second half performance against Stoke, encouraging 90-plus minutes against Middlesbrough in the week. And a lot of talk about the importance of this game in terms of Leicester's bearings or fairings, shall we say, for the remainder of the season. There's a long way to go still, don't get me wrong, but people were looking at this game saying Norwich, winnable game at home. You know, Stoke away, okay. Draw, not too bad. Middlesbrough away, decent result. A draw. Need to start picking up wins because other teams are capable of picking up 3 points. Thankfully today, it's not the case. I mean, teams in and around Leicester's position, but at home against Norwich, who have picked up, by the way, impressed with them. I'm sure the boys were as well. We'll come on to that maybe. But it's a sort of game that ordinarily you're looking at and thinking, here's an opportunity to change the course of our season a little bit, or certainly affect it the way that things are going, and they weren't able to do so. And unfortunately, for large parts, you know, never really looked like it. But they're walking around the pitch now, just sort of acknowledging the supporters that do remain here. It got pretty scarce pretty quickly, but I think that the players can be. It sounds a bit strange to say after a 2-0 defeat, but you can commend them for. But it should be the least requirement, right? But they've tried to apply themselves. They've tried to be influential out there today. They tried to rally themselves, lift themselves under the guidance of the new manager. And to a degree in the first half, it was apparent. The second half, I don't know, like the situation maybe took its toll a little bit, if you get what I'm trying to say. And they've got to remain very, very strong-minded, you know, to get themselves out of this situation, because you know things can set in a little bit, can't you? You can start feeling sorry for yourself. As hard as you try, you think things are going against you, but they've got to remain positive. I'm sure with Gary Rowett at the helm, he will do his utmost to ensure that is the case.
Yep, that's the voice of Matt Elliott. Jerry Taggart and Paul Konchesky with me here in the studio. Both played with Gary Rowett separately. Jerry for Leicester, Paul for Charlton. He is an upbeat character, isn't he, Jerry? He's an upbeat guy, and he's got to use every ounce of that now, hasn't he, moving forward?
Yeah, and alongside Callum Davidson as well, who, again, similarly very upbeat. Glass half full, although maybe a bit less than half full after the result today. But, yeah, I mean, that's by the by. They have to try and pick the players up after that result. You know, it's as simple as that. And as Matt rightly says, big credit has to go to Norwich. You know, I thought they were excellent as a team. They carried out the manager's instructions, I mean, superbly well. And Leicester, in the end, just weren't able to cope.
Yeah, I totally agree. But we see Fatawi was shot in the first half, Dan, and the Norwich centre half coming out to block shots, leading from the back. I just don't see that with two centre halves for Leicester today. You want to put your body on the line. You need to keep out the goal, and for some way or how, they need to get a clean sheet.
I think that what we've seen today was, what we haven't seen in the last two games, by the way, is Leicester under pressure from the beginning of that second half. Matt's right. You know, the first half was pretty even, Stephen. There's not a lot in it. Norwich worked their way into the game, showed nice little touches. McGoma causing all kinds of issues. Start of the second half, McGoma straight from the off. He's at it again. Big half-time team talk for Norwich, never mind Leicester. They come out, control the game, and Leicester sort of go within themselves. Just showed a little bit of a, showed themselves to be a little bit fragile mentally. And Norwich eventually capitalised on that. And obviously when they went in front, they never looked back. They sort of just got a stranglehold on the game. And this is Gary Riott's biggest job for me, is Leicester's mental capacity to deal with, pressurised situations. We've seen it against Stoke last weekend, where they've conceded early on and they get themselves back into the game, score 2 goals, take the lead, then they concede again, but they go up the pitch and should have probably have scored another 2 goals at least to win that game. But that showed a different side to that mentality. But today, you just seen that fragile side.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, pretty much. It's difficult here trying to sort of assess the situation and remain positive, because all is not done and dusted, all is not lost. There's still a long, long way to go. But it's to sort of assess it with a tinge of positivity, which you need to do, which the manager certainly needs to do, to keep the players buoyant to any sort of degree. But it's as hard as you try and do that, it's got to be about genuine belief. I keep coming back to that word over recent times, and authentic belief, players in themselves, but also when you look across at your teammate and think, have we got this within us? I'd like to think that Leicester players think they have, because the personnel, the ability that they have within the ranks, belies the position that they are in the league. It's not somewhere that you would expect them to be, and it's not somewhere they should be. So hopefully they have that drive and belief together to pull themselves out of the quagmire, as Martin O'Neill used to say to us many times. And unfortunately, that's what they're in at the moment. But it's not unachievable with the personnel that Leicester have at this club. A couple of people coming back from injuries, etc. Didn't have much chance to influence proceedings today, but that squad must give you some sort of confidence, some sort of belief when you look at it, individually as a player. And again, keep mentioning Gary Rowett. He'll look at that. He took this job thinking, what are Leicester City doing down there? Surely I can do something to turn their fortune around. And hopefully that is the case. Today was a bruising defeat. It was, after 2 encouraging performances, Stoke Middlesbrough. Today wasn't how a lot of people hoped it was going to be, or perceived it was likely to be. It was, Norwich were more impressive than people would have foreseen, but you come up against decent teams. I mean, I remember saying to myself and others, yourself included, Dan, at this level, in the Championship, Leicester should be doing extremely well. But I don't feel I maybe give the Championship enough credit, to be honest, because I've seen quite a few teams come to King Power and away from home impressed me with how they play football. Blackburn were one, and they're a team obviously struggling down the bottom. Portsmouth as well, to a different degree. There's teams right throughout the league who have got attributes, and Leicester are going to have to sort of come to that realisation soon, and come to terms with dealing with it.
Matt, Jerry, just stay on the line there, my friend.
He'll be on until we're on, Jerry. Don't worry, he's with us.
You haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Just going back to, obviously myself and Paul have watched the game, you've been out there. And so I suppose a question that has come up before, leadership.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, did you see a lack of it? Did you see players trying to trying to show that leadership, especially in that second half.
Yeah, any element of that seemed to dwindle in the second half, didn't it? I think, you know, like I say, I refer to the situation sort of sometimes not all encompassing, but you know, sometimes it gets the better of the players, and you know, the heads drop a little bit and stuff. But you go in that team, without being too critical of the players, there aren't, from my perspective or from an outside point of view, it doesn't seem like there's too many natural born leader type players out there. Lascelles is on the bench, of course. He was brought in partially to fulfil that role. I think Harry Winks was trying to pull things together, not just in his performance, but he was cajoling players, he was having a word with them, trying to organise, etc. But there isn't too much of it naturally, is there, from the other players when you look through the ranks, really. Cordova-Reid, you know, sort of lends his experience to others. You see him having a little quiet word every now and then, but he's not really a sort of leadership material, is he? And the other players are sort of youngish and don't necessarily have that character, that personality, that type of personality. But so to answer your question, Tags, yeah, long story short, I think they are lacking a bit in that area.
I think for me as well, when Norwich came out in the second half and started to get a lot of joy, and Leicester were sort of being pulled, especially defensively, getting pulled out of position. You know, their backs were being turned the opposite way to, you know, if you were set in a really good position, and they didn't calm themselves down and assess what was happening and then go and deal with it. It was just sort of everything was happening in a flurry, and their heads were spinning, and they couldn't deal with the situation. And then in the end, they conceded the goal because of it. And I think that's another issue that, you know, I think Gary Rowett is going to have to deal with. When you're coming under pressure, that's fine. You need to know how to dealing with pressure from a good footballing team, and not panic and not let your head drop, but just assess the situation, take a deep breath, and get together as a group and go, right, you here, you and you stand in front of me, don't move until I say so. Little things like that.
Yeah, what would you say in that position? Obviously, you've been a manager yourself. How difficult is that to get that message across?
Well, I think it's quite simple, especially for now players are right next to the touchline. So a bit like Tags is saying there, regardless of shape, I think you can consolidate that by going just my winger, get in front of the fullback, just as a 4-4, 1-1 or whatever Gary wants to play. But can we just take our time, 5 minutes, all stay together, settle it down, and then try and play on the counter attack, and then hopefully you get back into the game like that.
Yeah,
that's where leadership comes on the pitch, is analysing a situation on the pitch, not waiting for the manager to always call on and say, I need you to sit, but on the pitch and saying, right, McGowan's getting too much space. I need Ollie Skip just to sit in front, and I'll speak to him and say, left shoulder, right shoulder, don't move, Ollie Skip, just stay there. And if he moves to the side, I'm closing him down. Little things like that on the pitch can save you a multitude of sins by either running because you're not talking and communicating with each other.
Yeah, it's a big week now, Matt, isn't it? Norwich's bitter rivals Ipswich up next away from home. We know how good they are, but Leicester were fantastic against them. Probably the performance of the season earlier on against Ipswich. Hopefully we can see something like that again. Is that the sort of thing that we as supporters can cling on to and think there's a chance going to Portman Road because of that?
Well, you have to, don't you? There are, you know, you're putting one argument across, and there are quite a few sides to the argument against that because of the form that Ipswich are in, the position they're in, the quality players that they have. But you're right. Another example of the topsy-turviness of this division. Leicester here at home against Ipswich, were imperious pretty much on the day. They cruised it, didn't they? And Ipswich offered very, very little. You doubt that that's going to be the case again at Portman Road, but it doesn't get a lot easier, does it? Really, it's been a tough run of games. Stoke, Middlesbrough, Norwich in the form that they are in, as we found out, and then Ipswich looming. But after that, I think, listen, we know there's no easy games in this league, but after that, there are games that you'd like to think Leicester have a very good chance of getting something out of them. So, you know, all is not lost in that respect. Next week's going to be tough, but the unpredictability of this league is bordering on craziness at times. You know, the Coventry can go and lose at home to bottom of the league one week, and then they go and smash someone else the next week, and it is very unpredictable. And let's hope we have an unpredictable weekend next weekend.
Yeah, I guess that's what Leicester need to just try and concentrate on and look at the positives. There weren't many, I guess, today, some from the first half and keeping it tight, but just thinking the positives of how good we were against Ipswich earlier in the season. We go there with that confidence. And the fact that Matt just says there, it is incredibly unpredictable, this division.
Yeah, and I'll say take your positives. And Gary's going to have a whole week now with the team and the players to take the positives from this, look forward to Ipswich and get his ideas that he's been obviously drip feeding in, but he's had 2 games in a quick space of time. So hopefully he gets his points across for this week and going into Ipswich, and hopefully we all know that they're big games you get up for, and we can try and get a result.
Yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Jerry, he's not been in long at all, has he? It just feels longer than what it probably is, but it's just literally the 3 games have all come in a week, and he's probably then, as a result of that, not had actually that much time on the training pitch.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. And I think, you know, there's a saying in football that you learn more from a defeat than you do from a win. So, I mean, he'll have learned a lot today if that is the case. I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure he'll learned a lot today because, as I say, the other 2 performances, which I've been to both games, I seen a real uplift in performance levels, in standards, in the mental side of the game. And unfortunately, in that second half, we just seen some aspects of Leicester's game slipping back into what we'd seen a few weeks before Gary Rowett came into the club. So that's food for thought for him and his coaching staff and also the players.
Do you think it might actually suit Leicester to play away from home at the minute, just with the way that teams maybe come at Leicester more?
Well, based on the last couple of games, you'd have to say yes. And again, you know, we're gradually getting players back. You know, Jordan James coming on. Again, even just that little cameo, and you just look at his decision making on the ball. And 9 times out of 10, he just makes the right decision. You know, and it's little things like that myself and Paul watch, and you think, yeah, this is where some of the other players need to get back to, is just the simplest things, just carry them out properly. And it just lets you grow that little percentage and moves you forward that little percentage into the game, going into, you know, following on and going deeper into the game. And sometimes we just didn't see that being done in him. He comes on, he knows exactly what he's doing, he knows exactly where he is on the pitch and what he's got to do. And so hopefully, you know, he will bring an air of confidence and momentum, you know, by staying fit for one.
Yeah, I mean, there's Leicester supporters watching this, fans watching this, Paul, that want to hear some positivity, and I guess Jordan James is that, and that is a positive to see him coming back into the team.
Yeah, I think Jerry said it then, and I've said before at the start of the programme how much he runs forward, he creates chances, gets shots off, and you see that in the 15 minutes he was on for. He wants to run forward, he wants to get in the box, he wants something to happen and create stuff. So it'll be that 15-20 minutes for him today will be a big positive, especially going into the run of games that we've got, and hopefully he gets a lot more minutes at Ipswich next weekend.
Yeah. Final point can go to you, Matt, on what's been another difficult afternoon for Leicester City fans.
Yeah, another disappointing afternoon, unfortunately, yeah. People were hopeful. It was a bright feel about the stadium today. A little slow in accumulating crowd-wise, but there was a late flurry. Everyone came piling in and the music was blasting out, the songs were being chanted, and it had a positive feel about it, but didn't turn out that way. Like I say, Leicester had moments in that first half where they were popping it around quite nicely, but Norwich's quality always seemed like it was going to be a problem. But yeah, I was going to say the players are sort of, it would be the wrong thing to say really, they're getting used to these situations. They don't want to get used to it though, because it's happening too often. They don't want it to become the norm. You want to be affronted by it, offended by it, so that you've got a reaction in reserve. And hopefully we'll see that next week. It's going to be a tough proposition, as the boys mentioned there, possibly away from home. Might suit them that little bit better right now. Good team that Ipswich are. But listen, long way to go, plenty to play for. Can't afford to be too downbeat. Got to be realistic, but at the same time, got to show some real character. And Leicester have that, and they have quality in abundance as well. We know that. So it's just battling on, staying determined, and hopefully some sunshine will come through at the end.
Hopefully so. It looks quite bright actually where you are, Matt. So the actual sun's coming anyway. Thank you, Matt. You'll be travelling down to Ipswich next week. That is back to a 3 o'clock kickoff here on Matchday Live and Fox's Hub. You can follow all the action as ever. That means we'll be live from 2:30 with our build-up show. There are international game passes and monthly passes available for you, so all you need to do is head onto the website there to get all the information that you need about what is available to you. Thank you to Matt Elliott, thank you to Jerry, and thank you to Paul Konchesky for their company this afternoon on another difficult and disappointing afternoon for the Foxes, but we'll go again next week, won't we? Of course, we'll see you for that Ipswich game in a week's time. Goodbye.